Now I request Dr. Gontia, Vice Chancellor, Junagadh Agriculture University, for his guidance and address. So, Gontia, sir.
Namaste, Ben.
Namaste, sir.
I am Dr. Narendra Gontia from Junagadh Agriculture University, Junagadh. Friends, in this year only, the IPCC report is presenting providing very intensifying impacts of the climate change and futuristic risks. There are so many things are discussed on that, but I concentrated, as I told, on about the rainfall and water management, particularly. As we in the Gujarat, the survey which is conducted by the Gujarat, and it is found that even if increase of 1 or 1.5 degrees Celsius of temperature will reduce 15 to 25% of yield of different varieties. And in our own research at the Junagadh Agriculture University, we have also found that with just a 1 or 1.5 degree temperature change, the evapotranspiration demand of different crops may increase by 5%. And simultaneously, if suppose in Rabi season, suppose we are growing the wheat crop in the Saurashtra region. In Saurashtra itself, the additional water requirement may go to 10 million cubic meter for that, for the compensating the water demand of the wheat crop only. And earlier we were talking about that the impacts will come, now they have started. Even in Gujarat, if we see that the areas which we are getting high rainfalls, the rainfall is reducing, and where the rainfall was less, in those areas, the rainfall is increasing. And other way also, maybe the rainfall is increasing, but the trend is like that. We are getting the rainfall with minimum rainy days. The number of rainy days are reducing, though the rainfall is increasing. So very heavy rains come in very short duration time, high intensity rains comes. So very difficult to arrest such rains or to go for water harvesting, because immediately a very thunderstorms comes and a lot of runoff is there. It is difficult to arrest that, and it is making havocs also. So the crop is also getting affected. And other side, we are not getting the benefits of that rainfall. If the same rainfall is distributed one, we could have a better advantage of such rainfalls. So this needs to go for, suppose I appreciate the program. We were advocating this, that already in Gujarat we have made a lot of structures on the nalas, that is gully plugs and check dams and other small dams and all those. We have checked that it's okay, the water is checked when it reaches to the nalas and gullies or rivers, but it needs to be checked in farms also. So for that purpose, the farm ponds are the better options. In our 75 years of independence, we are saying we should make the Prime Minister has advised, and he is suggesting that go for 75 ponds in each villages. That is a good idea, and we are working on that direction, because ponds are sustainable solutions in comparison to check dams and nalas, because their life is less. And as the excess water comes from so much of heavy rains, immediately it goes out of the check dams, and storage is very less for a small time only. But if it is the farm ponds available in each village, in each pond, then there itself the water is arrested where it is. The discharge can be reduced for other places, and in rivers, less discharge will come, so havocs can also be reduced. The temperature variation has already proved this year. If we see in Saurashtra, due to the temperature variations, the mango crop, which is a very important horticultural crop, is this area. We are saying Kesar mango. We have the geographical indications for that. The production of the mango is reduced by 50% this year due to this change of climate change only, or temperature variations, we can say. The temperature variations has affected at least 3 horticultural crops in the region. One is mango, another is the jamun, what we call blackberry, and third is the lemon. Lemon production is also drastically reduced because the fruit setting has been not done due to the variations, very high variations in the temperature occurred this year. Even in winter season, the high temperature has gone, and even the production of wheat crop is also affected. Not only in Saurashtra region, in whole country, the production of wheat crop is also affected. So this all shows that the impacts are now alarming at our door, and we have to take care of that. And a study conducted in our university, it has also showed that the annual one-day maximum rainfall in almost all the districts of Saurashtra, we have 10 districts on Saurashtra, the annual one-day maximum rainfall is increased. So, as I told that though the rainfall is increased, but it is in a short duration of time, so number of rainy days is reduced. It is creating not the meteorological drought, because we are defining droughts in some terms of the meteorology only. So it is not a meteorological drought, because the government says if 60% rains occurs, means this is not a drought. So it may be a 60% rains are there, but they are occurring in such a way, it is creating the agricultural drought. The water is not available when it is required for the crops. So that is, we can say agricultural droughts are there, though there is no meteorological drought is there. And similarly, the adaptation strategy, suppose we have to go, there's already so many people have told that we have to go for now we need the varieties which is temperature tolerant varieties. And we cannot wait for the traditional breeding to do this work. We need this marker assisted breeding. We have to go for that, for developing such varieties which can be tolerant to our heat resistance varieties, whether in any crop or in horticulture also. For fruit setting also, which is a big problem, we have to think over that how these problems can be tackled in future. Because the horticultural farmers, if they suffer, they have only single crop in the whole year. If a mango is suffered, they suffer the whole season of their crop. So that is a big problem for the farmers, and we have to tackle that with properly, that how we have to go ahead in the future. Similarly, if the evapotranspiration is increasing, then we have to go for such strategies. Just we are saying the mulching. In natural farming also nowadays, natural farming is quite advocated by so many people. There also we are saying you have to go for mulching with naturally available or the residues, crop residue available in the farm itself. So if the crop residue is available in the farm and we can utilize for the mulching, it is well and good. Otherwise also we have to go for the plastic mulching. So we can be able to reduce the evaporation part of the evapotranspiration. The total evapotranspiration, which is going to increase by 5 to 10% in coming 5 to 10 years. Out of that, if we want still to manage with available water, we have to reduce the evaporation part of the field. So still we are able to reduce the evapotranspiration of the crops. That strategy is to be needed, and I think in natural farming they are advocating for this also. We should go for another type of crops also, particularly the horticultural crops and row growing crops. It is easy to use the crop residue for mulching, and it is highly needed nowadays. Similarly, the innovative clusters-based community irrigation projects for micro irrigation coverage should be encouraged. We know very well the micro irrigation system or drip is giving very good results. We are able to save 30 to 40% water with 20 to 30% increase in productivity. Now, if these systems is used by the farmers, the major problems comes because the small farmers, repair and maintenance is a major problem. If we go on cluster-based or in a community-based irrigation system, then it is a responsibility of certain people who are well trained in repair and maintenance, and they will be repaired, because such technology or such system needs regular repair and maintenance, and as the farmer is not able to do it, so that's why they are adopting for 1 year or 2 years, then they don't go further in this system, they start again the surface irrigation. So the need is that we should go for community-based or on a cluster-based, where somebody can be there who is be the mechanic for that and who can do the repair maintenance of such drip irrigation systems. Only MIS is not enough. Using micro irrigation is not enough nowadays. When we go for the community-based systems, we need the control systems also. Nowadays, it is very difficult to manage with labor everything. So we need the artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence-based control system to manage such irrigation system. So only when the water is required by the crop, in that time only, and for that much quantity the water is supplied, and that also automatically through the sensors it is gauged and supplied through the control systems. So that will save the labor also, and that will save the water also, which is becoming precise in the coming future. Now in the 25% deficit water productivity, we have seen that 1.2 times normal practices, the same production can be achieved. What I meant to say means, if the irrigation water requirement is certain crop is fixed, or we have already advised to the farmers, if the farmer goes for 75% supply of the water only, 25% deficit use, so the productivity, water productivity will increase 1.2 times. Though the production may be at par with the previous production. So all types of techniques are required to be adopted for going for climate resilient agriculture also, and whatsoever is the water available with us, with that water, if we want to manage the things of the future. Similarly, the use of harvesting techniques. Till now, we were using the harvesting techniques where we were harvesting the water and storing it on the surfaces only. So whether it is a farm pond or it is a nala plug or it is a dam or something like that, surface is used for the harvesting the water or the discharge from a certain area. Now the thing, we have to go for the groundwater recharge also, because surface availability, area available is very less, and every farmer wants that he should utilize his whole area for the agricultural purposes or for some other purpose. The area is reducing. So we cannot allow more area under surface harvesting of water, because spreading area or submergence area is increasing, and a lot of problems are there. In big dam, it's a big problem, but even in small dams and small water pond or the farm ponds also, some areas to be utilized for that purpose. So in such cases, let us go for the groundwater recharge. A very big aquifers are available with us, and there are several techniques where we can go. Nowadays, even these techniques are available to even deeper aquifers we can recharge. In rainy season, suppose this year only, in this last 10 days, a lot of rain occurred in Saurashtra region, and it looks like everything is filled up. All the check dams and nala, gully plug is filled up. Even the wells, open wells are filled up to the top, and it looks like aquifers are filled up. No. It is only the top aquifers which are filled. That's why we are having such situations on ground or in field. The deeper aquifers still needs recharge. And the experiments conducted in the Junagadh Agriculture University, we have the live demonstration. Still, we are able to continue to recharge the such boats which are in deeper aquifers with 10 to 15 liters per second of intake capacity of those aquifers. Still, they are continuing to recharging. This shows that we have to utilize the groundwater also, where the groundwater aquifers, they should be recharged properly. So whatsoever the excess water coming in a small chine, which is nowadays in high rainfalls, that we can use at a surface storage as well as the groundwater recharge. So more water will be available when it will be required during the Rabi season or the summer season of the crops. These are some points, and in nutshell, we have to focus on integrated approach, combining interventions on soil health management, water harvesting, critical stage-wise irrigation, more crop per drop through MIS, irrigation water quality management, automated irrigation and fertigation using artificial intelligence and smart sensors and mulching. The water quality will also can be improved if we go for groundwater recharge, and even if a good pressure is created, whatsoever in the coastal areas we are facing the seawater intrusion in the our aquifers or in the tube wells and wells, that also can be stopped, and salinity ingress can also be reduced. That we have seen in the Saurashtra coastal belt in last few years. So with these words, I thank the organizers that they have given me the time for talking on or discussing on this platform. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sir, for excellent presentation. And from all the state universities, every presentations, every interactions we learn. Yeah, culture drought. Yeah, we all, particularly myself, I am talking drought. We know. Of course, we don't say like that it's drought for all. Not drought for those. We have a water. It's not a drought, but agriculture crop do not have a, so maybe it's a good. Of course, we learn lots of technical things from the universities. So thank you so much, Dr. Gontia sir, Vice Chancellor, Junagadh University, for his detailed presentation and mentions. Of course, this last 10 years, we have a lot of rain in the state of Gujarat, particularly Gujarat state of India. But it's not enough. Sometimes we say states are flooded, but sometimes it's not enough. We require to recharge it and restore it. So,
online
seriously, we thankful to you. I request all the experts and participants, please, mic apno band raksho, please. Now, I request Dr. Govind Hariharan, because he requested he have to leave early, and Dr. Govind Hariharan always wake up early for NCCSD. Sometimes I feel very bad. I just write the email to Dr. Govind Hariharan and he says yes. He never said no. And he is ready to help to NCCSD in agriculture and its allied sector. So I request Dr. Govind Hariharan, because Dr. Richard is not able to make a share their views. So we have that time slots. So I requested and urged Professor Govind Hariharan for his guidance.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shilet. Thank you, Nisha. Can you please mute?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to take too much time. I've been listening to all the experts. I'm more of a learner than an expert on this topic. I specialize in health, wealth, and technology. And I've always had the great pleasure of attending and listening to the experts and learning from them at the NCCSD event. So I thank you very much for always inviting me. As I mentioned, my primary area of focus is the economics of health, wealth, and technology. And one of the most interesting things as we read the latest assessment report in the context of climate change, is the emphasis that is really given to health and wealth, which wasn't to the same degree in previous reports of the reports on climate change. So you now have essentially two specific chapters that look completely on topics of how do you address the impact of climate change on health, and how do you address the impact of climate change on wealth. So one thing that is very clear from reading those reports and reading the background literature that has gone into it is that it is very, very uneven when it comes to the potential impact of climate change on health. We've already seen a lot of it, and it is likely to get even worse as the situation progresses unless we prepare for it. So the impact is very uneven by every estimate that I have seen. Is uneven across regions, and unfortunately, India and South Asia tend to stand out, as well as countries like China stand out quite a bit in this context and in the extent of the impact of climate change on health. So this comes through not just issues pertaining to water salinity, but also in the transmission of diseases, also in the context of major cardiovascular, diabetes, and other predominant health conditions. It also varies. So within India itself, it seems to, by their estimates and by all of the simulation models, it seems to vary quite a bit depending on the region within India you're speaking about. So certain regions, such as the coastal areas, tend to, of course, have a pretty sizable impact, but as well as cities such as Kolkata, cities such as Delhi seem to have, by those estimates, the potential for very, very high risk of high impact on health conditions of the population. The second thing is that it tends to be across these regions be a lot more focused in particular industries. Different industries are impacted differently. Some benefit, some suffer, and agriculture, especially when you look at fisheries and animal husbandry, all of them tend to get impacted a lot more by these estimates of the impact of climate change on health of workers in specific industries. The last point in the context of health is the really, really significant difference in terms of impact across socioeconomic strata as well as age. The reason why this is very important to keep in mind is that in every crisis situation, it is not just climate change, in any crisis, the worst impacts are always concentrated in the lower rungs of socioeconomic status. In the context of climate change, in the context of farming and farmers, especially when you speak of older farmers, this impact is likely to be really, really significant, and therefore more buffers need to be created as well as more resilient systems need to be built in so that small farmers who are older do not get affected in terms of their health. So health systems need to take those into account, everything from rural clinics to telehealth mechanisms. So it's very clear from these studies, and it has never been more prominent than in the latest report of the potential impact of climate change on health. And therefore, it behooves us to look for approaches to reduce its impact. Assuming that the worst happens, what are the things that we can do to resolve these situations? The second component is wealth that receives a lot of attention. And again, the similarity between health and wealth is quite unique in the sense that in both contexts, the impact of shocks on the lower socioeconomic strata is really, really extreme. It's miles apart when you compare to the upper economic strata. So a small shock to their income because of poor harvest forces many farmers to commit suicide. Really gets people into major debt so that they can no longer afford the type of health care that their children need or they themselves need. So the impact of health, impact of climate change, shocks due to climate change on wealth is really significant and pronounced when you're speaking about lower socioeconomic strata. And all of their models are very, very consistent in showing that and showing that to be highly significant. There are also interrelations between health and wealth. They flow in both directions, the causality. Better health enables you to work longer hours, be more productive at work, generate more income. Poorer health does the opposite. But better income situations also enables you to afford better health care and take much better care of your health. So the causality runs in both ways. And when you throw in shocks from climate into this mix, it just makes the whole thing very, very circular and complex. So the complex challenge of balancing climate change goals with economic growth really requires smart solutions. Many of the solutions have been offered already today, and I'm looking forward to learning more in the future from those speakers as well. The one area, and this was addressed by a couple of the speakers, and especially in the context of weather, but information systems, ICT technologies can play a really big role. When you speak about any disaster, in recent years, the effect of a crisis and a disaster has been to have people look for information. That information they search in social media, etc. So problems pertaining to the credibility of that information begin to start taking center stage. Technology-enabled solutions provide much better weather forecasts, much better abilities to form groups that one can use to build resilience, provide much better support systems for older farmers in terms of communicating with others, not being isolated, in terms of receiving much better telehealth capabilities. In all of these, technology, especially information-centered technology, can provide a key tool, can be developed as a key tool in addressing the impact of climate shocks on health and wealth. The reason why that is important is also because of the fact that that is one area in which India really dominates. When you speak of fintech, for instance, while there are many, many payment processing mechanisms, etc., the one thing that everyone speaks of is what has been developed in India coming out of the Aadhaar system. So in so many ways, and we also, in providing ICT services to the world, we have become the central player, most innovative country, and therefore it behooves us to capitalize on our competitive advantage in looking for solutions for not just India, but for the world in addressing climate change and its impact on health and wealth. Some of the key questions in this complex problem is balancing things. On the one hand, you have commitments and promises in the context of climate change goals. Each country is signing on to an agreement. Others may abide by it, may not abide by it. But it has a global impact. What are the impacts of this relative to the costs of realizing those climate change? Is the investment worth it? And studies have consistently shown that this is a really necessary and worthwhile investment to make. The minister and others have spoken of carbon credits. And Professor Asher had a really interesting suggestion. And I think it is really, really worth considering, because you're speaking of creating not just a global carbon credit market, but a domestic national carbon credit market. And the reason why I think it is an important approach to consider is because of the fact that every time there is a crisis, including the present day crisis in Ukraine, every time there is a crisis, there is a movement and a tendency towards becoming more inward-looking, becoming more nationalistic. And as that happens, global cooperation breaks apart. So if you're participating only in a world market, those markets are likely to really suffer from these shocks to extreme degrees that poorer segments of the population will face dramatic consequences from. That can be ameliorated, and carbon credits can also be utilized as a mechanism for ensuring more equity in the context of health and wealth as a result of climate change shocks. Information technology, as I mentioned, can provide a key building block for building resilience in India, and India, through its competitive advantage in that field, can really, really enable the rest of the world to benefit from it. So an innovative climate tech, similar to what we do in fintech, what we do in health tech, every other tech, what we really need to develop a focus in is climate tech to provide information technology-based solutions for the rest of the world, but more importantly, India, to resolve and to address climate change challenges. Lastly, uncertainty in every aspect of this climate change, health, wealth nexus is very, very prevalent in every element. And that is one of the ways in which some of the leading scientists, the weather experts, for instance, the meteorological sciences, they have made tremendous advances in terms of being able to predict short term what is likely to be the monsoon and how do you address it. Looking farther into the future has always been a challenge. We can predict something that we know is going to happen in the next 3 days. But we cannot predict what is likely to happen 3 years from now, 4 years from now, because the farther out you go, the larger is the role played by uncertainty. And the reason why uncertainty, to take that into account, is important is, again, if you're thinking of health and wealth impacts, if you want to reduce the level of suicides, if you want to reduce the level of bankruptcies amongst farmers, then it behooves us to look for ways to plan for worst case scenarios as much as we plan for the more optimistic scenarios and take that into our planning context. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for patiently listening to my few comments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Govind Hariharan. You pointed out many important points. We always think about the technology, agriculture, finance, carbon credit. But when we saw your mail, health, wealth, and technology needs the older farmers, like when you mentioned in the email at the time of the subject, when we are discussing at that time, our just mind like clicking, oh, health is the first, then wealth, and then technology. So it is, you mentioned a very important point, and I think we have to take it from your presentations, and further also we have to discuss this point in the detail in other deliberation also. And your last slide is very impressive. Complex problem, complex question. That heading even I particular see after many years. Because when we are children, then always our teacher, they give us a heading. This is a complex problem. This is a complex question. You have to solve it. So like as a teacher, as a professor, you just say us, this is a complex problem and complex question. We as a community, we as an expert, we as a farmer, whatever but we have to solve it and how we can do it. So thank you so much, Dr. Govind Hariharan, for your excellent mind-sparking presentation. And on behalf of NCCST, we always get your support, and we're really thankful to you for your all support, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And now I request Dr. Nandini, CEO of Atapi Seva Foundation, for her presentation and her address. After that, I request Dr. Loisy Wright-Morton from the Ohio, and then Tobias Grass. Loisy and Tobias Grass presentation, address and guidance are already in the formal timetable, in the formal program. But we have Judith, Astor, and Rudail Oshima, MAAF Japan. So we have other 3 experts and persons from the other country. So after Dr. Nandini presentations, I request Dr. Loisy from Ohio, then Tobias, and then if Judith, Astor, and Oshima from Japan would like to share their views, I request them after this all 3 presentations. So now I request Dr. Nandini for her presentation. Yes, Nandini ma'am. Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste, Nisha ji. Namaste to all the seniors. Am I audible?
Yes.
My screen is visible, right?
Yes, Nandini ma'am.
All right. So it has been a very learning session for us. We are Atapi Seva Foundation. We are a learning organization. Hello? Can I? Yeah, hello. Nisha Ben, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we are a learning organization, and this session has been extremely linked to the work that we are doing. And so this is basically what Atapi has been doing on sustainable and climate resilient agriculture practices. Just a brief, we are Atapi, it means, the Pali word means, diligent hard work. These are our mission, and we work on 6 sustainable development goals. And our major interventions are in livelihood enhancement, economic development, health and well-being, holistic child development, water and environment. We are a 10-year-old organization, and we have learned from our promoter groups, from VRTIs, our consortiums of straw voluntary organization, and also NCCST, which has really guided Atapi into climate resilient agriculture while we were working on sustainable agriculture practices in around 35 villages in Jambusar block of Bharuch district, mostly a coastal area. A greater push to climate resilient agriculture interventions was provided with the help of NCCST, where we worked with around 100 farmers on climate resilient agriculture. You may have heard, everybody would have heard these words, I think, from Krida and from all my esteemed co-panelists who have been speaking. We know what are the impacts. We have quite a bit of understanding of climate change impacts that are there, particularly for developing country like India with a very high population, which is also very closely related to nutritional, the health and livelihood security of the poor. As Professor Hariharan just also mentioned, that a very great impact on climate change is going to be happening on health, wealth, health and wealth is going to be affected, particularly of the most marginalized and the aged. So that is what Atapi has been working on with the most marginalized farmers. And everyone is aware how climate change affects agriculture: irregular or insufficient rain, increase in salinity, impermeability. This already has been mentioned by our co-panelists. I'll quickly go on to what has Atapi's goal been with support from various of our partner organizations is to, for our smart and sustainable agriculture, Atapi has set the goal of ending hunger, achieving food security, and improve nutrition through sustainable climate resilient agriculture for increasing farm income. So it is, Atapi has always been working with grassroots community-based groups, whether they are self-help groups or they are farmer learning groups, and all of them directly or indirectly have been very actively engaged in finding solutions to impact of climate change, because this dialogue has been happening since quite some time, and Atapi, having learned, is trying to also activate its various community-based groups to respond to the climate change. And one of its largest programs on agriculture has learned from various expert organizations and implemented sustainable agriculture and climate resilient agriculture. So this is how we relate the sustainable agriculture to climate resilient agriculture practices and to ensuring nutritional security. Coming to, we have a twin track approach. While we work with the around 110 most marginalized farmer groups, we also have created a farmer producer organizations. It's a twin track approach. While we with the help of the farmer producer organization, we enhance the availability of the products for climate resilient agriculture. Through the FPO, we are also providing technology usage in agriculture, as well as promoting the organic and natural farming practices, providing to the most marginalized farmer the tools and the knowledge base to be able to mitigate or adapt its climate agriculture practices to the climate change that has been observing. So in the last few years, these are the various activities, various interventions that have been done with support from our consortium and NCCSD. So many farmers have been, we've done crop demonstrations, then vermi-wash demonstrations, usually using different irrigation methods, intercropping, and actually affecting near about 1,000 most marginalized farmers. Lots of trainings and field day trainings and soil and water sample testing has been done. And what I will just, this is a Bhavi vermi-wash model, which was taken up in a project that was supported last year, where we did with about 100 farmers, and also plantation afforestation activities that we did for soil promotion and generation of additional income. Now, just a few findings of what we have done till now. We did see about 30% increase in crop production through intercropping system. Using the biofertilizers, the input cost reduction. So what we were talking about, both climate effect of climate change on health as well as wealth. So we feel that with these sustainable agriculture practices and the various smart climate agriculture technologies, use of them, there have been increases in crop production, also a reduction in the input cost. Increasing the water storage and soil by using various irrigation methods, reduction in the TDS, use of trellis system in the vegetables was found to be beneficial in saving of irrigation water. While these are certain things which are expected out of these practices, but actually seeing them on the ground really gives a great ray of hope that with these climate resilient agricultural practices also we are able to improve the productivity as well as the incomes of the most marginalized farmers, which is very, very important, as Professor Hariharan just mentioned. Laser irrigation system also helped farmers in saving of water, and different variety as cotton is grown here also increased, suitable harvest increased by 25 to 40%. So these experiments and these interventions have had on the whole with these 1,000 farmers these type of impacts. And if we go to certain success stories. So seeing these farmers actually increasing their increasing their income by 50% and actually following the sustainable agriculture practices is the great joy. And we have a ray of hope that if we continue and we keep providing support in this manner, I believe that we will be able to take this dream of having these type of resilient farmers, particularly the most marginalized farmers, will not just be a dream. And I think this is where we are headed to. Like leaving the cotton crop and adopting horticulture. So people have taken up, the most marginalized have understood, and they have also, with the help of our interventions and with the help of all the support that we've had from our partner agencies, these success stories we have been able to create, and I'm sure we will be able to create more such, like changing the crop pattern. This is using trellis system again, incomes were increased. As we can say, by crop rotation, more than 50% increase in income has been experienced. And with these positive stories, other farmers are also getting encouraged and utilizing these methods. Similarly, by using various active substances and adopting methods of retaining nutrients in the farm itself, 70% increase in income have also been reported. And these are real case studies of the farmers whom our team has so diligently followed up with, trained and conducted training. Our team of Sardar Bhai and Chandrika Ben have worked really hard with farmers to bringing the latest technology and to bring it to the farmers. Drip irrigation has also been shown. As you can see, the most marginalized farmers also average production revenue has been increased by to the extent of 40%. This is only in 1 year. So we have, as a grassroots organization which is working with the farmer groups, who are, as our experts have mentioned, are the most vulnerable to climate change, and their adaptation and mitigation is something that needs to be worked on. So having support from our partner agencies, I think we feel that we are going in the right direction. And also there are certain recommendations which has emerged from the experiences of the past few years of our action on the ground. We feel that there can be more government schemes for promoting agripreneurs, like collective action through the farmer producer organizations has also been tried out by us. But agripreneur development schemes, their accessibility can be improved a little. Then we believe greater information and greater availability of compost, warming compost, biofertilizer and propagation media needs to be further given a stimulus. Agroforestry and social forestry through self-help groups is something, is an area which our team feels that could also help in mitigation of the climate change and the effect that it may have on agriculture. Biogas model, linking dairy cooperatives and giving them subsidy could also help in these programs. More women farmer-oriented scheme, and also taking cue from Professor Hariharan, I think use of technology to help the most marginalized farmers through agromet advisories. We have been given agromet advisories by our partner agencies as well as from the local agencies, but I believe converting it into and utilization of artificial intelligence into that so that it becomes very user-friendly to the most marginalized farmers is our humble submission. And as taking a cue again from Professor Hariharan, since we are working also on in the same communities with the same groups on health and nutrition, we are at the verge of strengthening the climate resilient agriculture and nutrition interface. We have done nutritional assessments. We've identified the nutritional problems which are there. We've developed something like 250 kitchen gardens, utilizing the similar technologies which are being promoted for climate resilient agriculture. And we wish to see a better food security in these villages, food, nutrition security, and financial security of small and marginal farmers. So, in summary, as a small grassroots organization working in 35 villages, coastal villages of Gujarat, we feel that we have our feet on the ground, and we will be taking these things forward, and the Sustainable Agriculture Program forward with support from all of you. And it has been a really great learning experience for us, and we'll be happy to share more such experiences in such forum. Thank you, Nisha Ben, and thank you, NCCST, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nandini Ben. It's excellent presentations, and we have a lots of case studies. So I think we shared these case studies and our presentation to the GAGSA, because already Dr. Simon mentions it's like a learning process. So they have a knowledge group, action group. So I think we Atapi directly share with the GAGSA also, and we can share our experience and expertise as a case study about whatever we are doing at the best level with the women farmers. We can directly send them. Thank you so much, Nandini Ben.